you think anything fundamentally changed last week, Kristina, as a result of these talks?
No, but I think markets got ahead of themselves. I mean, let's think of this not as phase 1, but phase 0.5. Because the U.S. thinks they've made an agreement, but China doesn't necessarily believe the same. And so I think stocks got a little ahead of themselves, but there are always opportunities to find tech gems out there.
Where are they? I mean, or at least what leads you to them at this environment right now?
Well, I've advocated for a while now that Chinese tech looks very attractive, that has been beaten down really since the U.S. China trade wars began. Certainly it's seen small recoveries over this time frame, but there are a lot of opportunities in Chinese tech.
Larry, why do you think the administration keeps trumpeting these partial deals, only to have the Chinese come out later and say, well, not exactly? And how should investors be treating that?
Sure. Well, let's keep in mind, this is October, after all, and October is a scary month. Look, it's a scary month. It's known for Halloween, but it's also known for major market sell-offs. And I got to tell you, this year for Halloween, I was hoping to dress up as a trade deal with China. But I can't because I've never actually seen a trade deal with China, and I may not see one between now and Halloween. But what investors have seen before is Q4 volatility. And they saw it last year. It's a scary monster that came out. No one wants to talk about it, but we know it's out there. If we don't make a trade deal, that's a real concern. And we're seeing investor sentiment at its weakest levels since mid-2016. Manufacturing PMIs, a little bit soft. We're seeing all this softness, and we're telling investors, don't trade the trade headlines and compete with algos and robos. Instead, fade the market leadership on the trade headlines, and instead build a shopping list for year-end, opportunistically looking for tax loss selling candidates, which I'm much more excited about in election season.
So I got to try again with you, Kristina, because I really want an answer to this question. Why does the administration keep doing this? Right? And what's the investor to do when you get a partial deal announcement, the market moves on it, and then the Chinese say, no, there actually is no deal?
Right.
I think there may be some misunderstanding. When the two sides come together, we're finding this is often happening, right? That maybe there's just a misinterpretation of where everyone stands.
More than once? Is it really a misinterpretation?
Well, there's certainly probably some wishful thinking involved. The reality is that markets want a trade deal, and perhaps the administration is very desirous of delivering that for markets.
Larry,
I don't think, Carl, I don't think there was a misunderstanding. China was very quick to pop our celebration bubble over the weekend, and they were unfazed by phase 1 of the trade deal. They made it very clear where they stood. That's a formidable ally in negotiations. You know, it's like fighting Ronda Rousey in an alley fight. And it's not going to be an easy win. And I think that tone is something that investors should take away and recognize and spend some time focusing on.
So, Larry, then, is the hurdle too high? Is the bar too high to hurdle in terms of getting this phase 1 deal on paper over the coming weeks? And if so, does that mean a pullback for stocks?
Look, there's a bunker-like mentality starting to emerge for many investors here. We see record inflows going into money markets where investors are chasing yield. We see this barbell approach where investors are trying to hide from the stock market in young IPOs, private deals, and the IPO market is effectively dead right now for those deals. So I think investors are actually right to have that bunker-like mentality, but now they're starting to chase utilities, they're starting to chase gold, they're starting to chase all the usual suspects to hide from the market. That's actually what creates the opportunity at year-end. They're leaving everything else behind. They're leaving all these other areas they're afraid of. If we do make a deal, it's going to be a massive positive catalyst for the market, and the market will be relieved. The problem is it's not going to have an impact on the earnings season right now, and that's what we're most focused on over the next few weeks. Earnings are going to be a little bit soft, and nothing on the trade calendar is going to really affect that. And that's, I think, what we really need to be focused on. Fundamentals where the rubber hits the road, not sentiment, which is what investors are focused on.
Kristina, it's Columbus Day. It means the bond market is closed right now. Obviously, we've seen this relationship, really the equity market kind of taking its cue from the Treasury market. We don't have that today, but looking out to the rest of this week, what do you expect the reaction to be within that market, and what does that mean for stocks?
Well, I would expect the 10-year to move lower. We've certainly seen more volatility recently, and that is and the Treasury market has been a very good fear gauge. So I would expect the 10-year to move lower in this environment because sentiment is getting more negative.
Is growth on sale, Kristina? I mean, the IPOs have not performed that well. And for a long time, people were talking about how all these stocks were so expensive. Are we going to look back at this time and say, boy, that was a really great time to buy this handful of stocks that have grown enormously since then?
Well, certainly growth looks more attractive than it has, and I would argue that secular growth makes a lot of sense in a low growth environment. So the buying opportunity really is there for investors, especially if they have a long time horizon.
Any names?
I can't name names, but I will tell you that I think a lot of the tech sector looks very attractive. Those are the secular growth plays as opposed to the more cyclical parts of technology.
I assume you're talking more software than hardware?
Software, internet-related names, really those that ultimately I think will be designated in other categories, consumer internet, things like that. Those are attractive.